So with just over 3 weeks to the EU referendum on June 23rd, we're looking at some of the main issues for voters. Last night we looked at the issues facing farmers. Tonight, for the latest in our series on the issues, our Scotland editor Sarah Smith has been to Peterhead in Aberdeenshire, one of Britain's biggest fishing ports, to hear from an industry that is fighting for a vote to leave.
Fishing has been a way of life for generations around Scotland's northeast coast. But it's never been easy making a living at sea. And trawlermen say it has been made much harder by rules imposed by the European Union. Since the introduction of the Common Fisheries Policy, hundreds of boats have been scrapped, thousands of jobs lost. 20 years ago, this harbour would have been packed with fishing boats. It had been stacked 3-4 deep. Now the fleet is just a fraction of the size it used to be. And the fishermen say that is all the fault of the European Union. Trawlermen are angry because they feel they have lost control of their own waters. The Common Fisheries Policy sets quotas, telling fishermen exactly what they can and can't catch. It was designed to conserve stocks, as well as allowing equal access to the fishing grounds for boats from other EU countries, like France and Spain.
Around about our coast is very, very rich fishing grounds, and the EU fishermen get really good use of it, you know.
If we were to leave the EU, there would still be French and Spanish boats in the waters that you fish, wouldn't there?
Yes, of course there would be. But they would be under our rules. I mean, we're not saying that there's got to be no Spanish or no French. We might have to let some of them in to get access to their markets. But they would be under our rules and our quotas. And we would hopefully, we would get a bigger share out of the fish that's in our waters.
Right, 3 here, I've got 3 here, 365, 360.
Brisk business at the fish market in Peterhead doesn't ease the bitterness most of the fishing industry feel towards the EU. They're convinced they're getting a raw deal. But many admit the much-hated quotas have helped fish stocks in the North Sea to recover, and a few fear that could be put at risk.
My fear of leaving the European Union would be that we end up with a European free-for-all, which would devastate the stocks and knock the industry back 10 years, while legal arguments were going on about who had access to where, what and how. If we have a European fishing fleet that thinks they're going to get thrown out of the rich British fisheries, they could have a massive impact on destroying it before any agreement was put in place.
As with so much of the EU debate, no one really knows what the future of fishing would look like if there is a Brexit. What would it mean for the exports of fish to France and Spain, or the large number of EU immigrants who work processing the fish ready for sale? Whatever happens, the industry is convinced it has to be better than the status quo.
This industry is not so much a job but a way of life, and to see your whole heritage and your whole way of life devastated for a political project. We're ultimately being made to beg for our own fish from Brussels' table, and it's a national tragedy what's happened to the fishing industry, and it's what's happening to the country as a whole.
British trawlermen feel they've been cheated out of fishing rights that ought to be theirs by birth. And they believe only by leaving the EU can they regain control of the waters that provide their livelihoods. Sarah Smith, BBC News, Peterhead.